the Coaches Preview Show. I'm Darrin Joins, Williamson County Schools Athletic Director, and we're here to talk about our final WCTV Game of the Week for football this year, and it's a dandy. Maybe we've saved the best for last in terms of competitiveness and importance. I've got here with me today talking Ravenwood at Independence game tonight, Matt Daniels of Ravenwood High School, Scott Blade of Independence High School. Gentlemen, appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Darrin.
This week's game obviously has a lot on the line. I needed to have a doctorate, which I don't have, to try to figure out tiebreakers and possible scenarios. And here's what I've pretty much come up with. The easy one is this. Independence wins, it means a region championship. A Ravenwood win, it gets a little more cloudy. Now, no disrespect to Coach Kreisky at Centennial, but I feel pretty confident, and you guys probably too, even though I won't make you say it, that Brentwood probably takes care of Centennial. In that case, Ravenwood would end up second, Brentwood first, Independence third. Does that sound about right, gentlemen?
I believe so. Like you said, it takes a doctorate. You know, we had, as much as I wouldn't like to admit it, we had coaches texting like crazy on Saturday towards the end of that Brentwood Indy game asking about all the scenarios. So I think you got it right.
Obviously, it's fun to be playing a game of such significance this late in the year. Maybe you wish you had a cupcake that didn't matter going into the playoffs, but I know for the district athletic director and for the fans out there, this is really, really exciting. I know it's exciting for the folks at WCTV to be broadcasting tonight's game, and it's so important, again, to your teams individually and then to the playoff picture. Talking a little history of this game, Ravenwood leads the overall series 11-3. They've won the last 7 between these two. The last win for Independence coming in 2011. That game was 31-7 Independence. In all fairness, you've been in different classifications for several, maybe even most of these, so probably doesn't even have an impact. But Coach Blade, is the importance of this game or the next game, is that enough to be motivation, or is the history help or hinder in that way at all?
I don't know that history matters a whole lot. I wasn't here in 11, neither was Matt, neither were my kids. We haven't beat them in the last 4 years. So doesn't really matter. Right now we're playing them tonight, and that's the only game that matters. So for us, I don't really care about history. It's a new team. It's a new set of players, and we'll try and settle it, see if we can come out by one tonight.
Coach Daniels?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to talk about football history and the success of a program, but Scott said it right. I mean, none of that matters. Streaks end all the time in sports, and new streaks are started. But I think what's cool is that we've got 3, potentially 4 really strong teams from our region that's going to present a tough matchup across the bracket, and we feel good. I think being able to say going into tonight we're a playoff team, and we haven't been the top seed in 3 years, and we've been able to go several rounds deep. So you want to be playing your best football, and that's why tonight matters. You want to be playing really good football going into November, and playing a tough team is a tall task, and Scott's done a heck of a job this year. So we view it as another tune-up for the playoffs, and yeah, I hope we come out on top and get the best seed we can.
Coach Blade, obviously a win tonight. You not only win the region, you go undefeated, which, we talk about this all the time. Going undefeated in this league is certainly impressive and a great accomplishment. But really, you stop at least in the regular season, there's been kind of a dominance really from Brentwood and Ravenwood in terms of who the talk is about. And I feel like for your team, you were a team that early in the year, and I say a lot of things that is wrong. I say wrong things all the time. But I want to kind of take a little bit of credit here, Coach Blade. Early in the season, I said, don't sleep on Indy. I feel like maybe you like this role as the hunter, so to speak. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I've been doing this a long time. We've had the role where we're the hunter, we're the hunted. I prefer to kind of just stay back and just work with my team. And, we're just now, we beat a really good Brentwood team on a game that could have gone either way last week. And a much anticipated game that took, gosh darn, a month and a day to play the game. But I know, by the way, thank you to Ronnie Crawford being flexible and his administration being flexible enough to reschedule that game. I know Matt will say the same thing. We want to play these games. These are the games. These are games. Typically, if it was a regular year, these are sold out games. These are what communities rally behind. These are what, infuse life into the school and communities. And I appreciate him being flexible enough to let us reschedule that thing. And then, of course, on Friday night, with the lightning and everything else, thought it was best to reschedule for Saturday. And so it was a constant thing to even get it played. And I think that's what's special about this league. Matt had a hit on it as well. And I don't know if I'm answering your question. I'm probably just going off on a tangent here, but we have 4 really good teams in this region. And I do believe the west side of this bracket, state championship, is coming from this region. There's a great chance of that. The odds are in our favor. These are some terrifically coached teams and some well-prepared teams with terrific athletes. I know Matt's got a few over there that are, my gosh, I haven't seen, anybody as good as 9 in a long time. He is unbelievable. Of course, the linebacker is just really special, being a former linebacker. They got some terrific kids over there. When you asked about being under the radar and did I think we're going to be here, man, you just hope we do. All of us are dealing with COVID restrictions and COVID contact tracing, and every day is a battle just to get to the practice field. So win, lose, or draw, we are excited to be here and get one more chance of playing a really tough football team.
Coach Daniels, you guys coming in at 3-1 in league play, 5-4 overall. A win means a home game, just like Coach Blade wins. It means a home game for your team as well. And I'll be honest with you, again, I can look at this differently. You guys are worrying about what's ahead of you, but I've looked at it, and I'll be honest, being number 2 may be better than being 1, just because of how the matchups work out. Have you thought about that, looked at that, or is that just maybe in the back of your mind? But I think 2 is a pretty good place to be.
Yeah. And of course, I'd be lying if I said we hadn't thought about that, talked about it. It's in the papers all the time about the potential matchups and things like that. So, the 2 seed is a great spot to be. It's a good path. In a year like this, being in the playoffs, whatever seed you're at, you got to be thankful for that opportunity. But, again, I feel very strongly about our 4 teams that are going to be in the playoffs. And I think it's a good path, a good matchup, whichever way you slice it. And, we've played almost just as well on the road as we have at home over the last several years. So when you really get down to it, we feel like we like our matchup in the first round, whatever that may end up being.
And for those out there watching, the reason I say that is because the way the playoffs are set up, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. I think we're going to win all 4 first round. And if that happens because of seeding, you line it up where the ones from the separate regions should be in opposite brackets. Well, if our 4 teams win, then our 1 plays our 3 and our 2 plays our 4. So that's why I'm saying that. I mean, if you're 1 playing 3, maybe not quite as good as 2 playing 4. But again, like you guys said, it's a tough region no matter what. You got to look at the game in front of you. You don't know what COVID's going to look like in terms of players that are out. Just like it is any season, you got to be good and you got to be a little bit lucky. I think this year you got to be good and maybe really lucky when it comes to some of these things that are out there. Coach Blade, your schedule's obviously been changed quite a bit. You guys have really played 7 games, right? You've had 7 games that have actually been played. Tonight will be 8. You talk about that delay last week. And I was thinking about this the other day when I thought about all these changes and you weren't going to play Friday and had to come back Saturday. In my mind, I was thinking your demeanor probably works pretty well in the situation that we're in. Kind of California cool, like, hey, whatever. Not that you're not worried about it, but I do think you're really good at hey, it is what it is. If we can play today, let's do it. If we got to play next week, let's do it. Talk about that a little bit. Am I giving you too much credit, or am I on the right track here?
It's been stressful. Getting called out, we dealt with some the COVID stuff, the contact tracing, and it's been stressful. It's more stressful for the, to be honest with you, and Matt will say the same thing. You become so close to these kids throughout the year, and to see disappointment on their face. So for us, we may look at it as, okay, it's another opportunity to get healthier, work on some fundamentals, regroup, whatever, trying to find a positive in those situations. But it really has been a stressful year. Just, you're not, every day we get a list of who's on quarantine and who we're supposed to be checking in. We have a check-in procedure before practice. And that's been hard, and kids that are perfectly healthy, all of a sudden, getting an email. That's been very difficult for these kids. And us too, as coaches, trying to plan. All the while, you just kept faith that, hey, we're lucky to be playing. We're fortunate, but if we are going to play, we all want to put the best foot forward. Let's be honest. If we're going to play, if you've let us play and the state has said it's okay to play, then we want to win. We want to make sure we're moving in the right direction. We want to be successful at what we're doing. So I think the kids have responded. And I tell you what, if they hadn't been so resilient, it would have been real tough to get through this thing. But here we are, week 10. We've only played 7, I guess, but you're going to play one here tonight against an unbelievable team. And this is what you sign up for. And we're excited that we just get to play one more game. And then, much talk about the playoffs. I rarely read the paper. I don't follow all the whatever else is going on and really don't care. Tonight's game is the only one that matters. And then whatever happens in, we know that if we're going to continue to be successful, we will be seeing Ravenwood, Brentwood, Franklin, whoever, shortly. So the only game that matters is this one tonight, and the 2.5, 3 hours in front of us, and do the best we can.
Coach Daniels, one of the things, since we're talking about things that we love and respect about both of you, you guys taking on IMG, taking on Pulaski, really tough national kinds of names, and when you found out that the Cane Ridge game may be one that you couldn't play, and then I got a call from you guys at Ravenwood saying, we might be looking at playing IMG. I loved it. I really love that, you're willing to do that. And I don't think anybody in this league runs from games, but your excitement for playing a team, let's be honest, is going to be tough to beat. But you talked about the experience for your kids and being on ESPN, which was our first game, by the way, in WCS on ESPN, which is really cool. But I want to ask you this. Is there any part of you that said, dang, if we would have played a team that was a definite win, if we win tonight, we're actually first? Has that crossed your mind at all? Because one of the, I think, not necessarily goofy, but it's a little goofy tiebreaker, is total wins. Well, total wins doesn't always talk about wins against what kind of opponent. So a win's a win according to some of these tiebreakers. I hope that doesn't change your philosophy on scheduling, but I just wondered if you maybe thought about that a little bit the past few days.
I mean, it's definitely come up as a joke this week, but, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. I think the biggest takeaway is, we could be not headed to the playoffs, next week, but to have our kids have that memory of, in the middle of this COVID football season, we got to play on ESPN against the number 1 team in the country, and I won't say we played a great game, but we hung in there. And we did some really good things. I think we opened some eyes and learned a lot about ourselves, in terms of mental toughness. And, when you schedule games, and it can go one of two ways. It can toughen you up and make you battle tested, and, maybe you win a couple of those. But it can also go the other way. You can get physically and mentally beat up and never recover from it. So, I trust our coaching staff. I trust our players. we're competitors through and through in our program. And I know they would not have wanted to have it any other way. And I think we've kind of gone through that gauntlet in September, and we've come out on the other side. And we feel like that's going to benefit us come playoff time. And really tonight, it's another tough, high stakes game. And we hope that we can kind of fall back on some of those experience we got in September.
Let's talk a little bit about last week's game. Coach Blade, we talked a little bit already about your 26-21 win over Brentwood, and it was rescheduled from the second. You're going to play Friday, and it gets moved to Saturday because of the weather. Brentwood's up 7-6 at the half. You guys scored 20 straight in the second half. Obviously, they made kind of a furious comeback at the end, but I'm going to go back to this, and you and I have talked about it a lot. It all started with the defense. The second half starts, you get a big sack on Granzow. You put them behind the stick, so to speak. You forced a punt. The snap was off a little bit. You end up getting the ball at the 29. 3 plays later, Jackson Campbell to Ty Lockwood, and then you really never look back. But I think what maybe gets lost in that, some it doesn't get lost to you, but that defense, if they don't step up like they did to start the second half, maybe we're not talking about the possible region championship tonight.
Yeah, I thought they played well. They came out and they got the plays when we needed. I mean, the thing about high school football, and the longer I'm in this, there's zero guarantees. And really the game comes down to, and as much film as you watch, all it takes is a couple of plays or a tipped ball or a bobbled snap or running somebody going the back, a missed blocking assignment, a missed tap. One small thing can change the momentum of a game. We were up 26-7 and we tipped a ball went through our hands in the middle by a defender. 5 yards behind him's a waiting receiver. It's like manna from heaven in his hands and goes in the end zone. Well, that play was a third down and long play. It went through our hands. There's a few plays, every play, there's probably, 150 plays, 160 plays in a game, sometimes more. And it really comes down to just a few plays. Who's going to make those plays? Those tip balls that we feel are irrelevant, the jumping off sides, the penalty, albeit correct or not correct. Those type of things really shape a game, and the difference between winning and losing when two good teams are playing is very minute, and it comes down to just chance and circumstance and whatever. So we were fortunate we came out on top of that one. And I know, Matt can look at a few games and you can say, man, and we're fortunate on some of these wins that may appear as a blowout. Well, like I said, all it takes a few little wrinkles and maybe a morale shot. Momentum is gained, momentum is lost. But we're fortunate that the defense played well enough to create those opportunities for us to give us a chance. But man, that was such a heck of a game, and it really just came down to a couple different plays.
Coach Daniels, you guys with a bye last week, which you got to feel pretty good about that in terms of resting up, so to speak. Independence plays a tough game on Saturday. You get the entire week off. So I'm sure you're thinking maybe that's to your advantage tonight. But I did want to ask you about this too. I've done a little investigative reporting. So if this is personal team stuff that you can't answer, then obviously don't do it. But I hear that there was a little bit of motivation a couple of weeks ago with helmet stickers. And maybe you got your guys' attention a little bit and said, hey, we need to earn these helmet stickers and get this thing turned around. Is there any truth to that, Coach?
I mean, it's, you search for answers to, Scott just talked about little things, essentially that's what it comes down to, and mental toughness and figuring out ways to come out on top more often than not with those little things. And, we just felt like we were at a point where we didn't know what else to do in terms of emphasizing those little things. And, we didn't get our normal off-season team bonding, our trip that we take to Kentucky every year. We didn't get any of that. And we felt like we were just missing that little bit of extra brotherhood and going through the earning of the bird, earning of the stripes, and we made a decision as a program. It wasn't a coach's decision. It was a decision as a program to say, let's stop focusing on our individual stats, how we felt we played during the game as an individual. Let's get back to just playing football, focusing on minimizing mistakes, and try to really go back to thinking about why we're out here, and be thankful for being able to play it all this year. So we'll see how it goes. It worked week one, and we're just trying to earn things back day by day.
Well, I love to hear about that motivation that you do, and it's interesting to hear that was a program decision. And one of the things I love, a lot of people talk about players, and I'm a coach guy. I love to see what coaches are doing. As a has-been former coach myself, I try to pay attention to what they're doing to motivate their team, how they're coaching the team. You're two guys to me that approach it fairly differently, but both very, very effective. You're both who you are. Which I think is maybe one of the best things about the best coaches. They're authentic, and certainly both of you are in maybe a little bit different way. Now, Coach Daniels, you just talked about let's don't focus on the individuals, but I'm going to ask some individual questions here about some players. I think you both have Mr. Football finalists on your teams. We're going to start, Coach Blade, with your guy, Jackson Campbell. Stats are just so gaudy. We talked about this earlier. He's got great stats right now for a 10-game season. You've played 7 games total. Last week, 215 passing yards, 70 rushing yards. And I think you told me earlier, over 20 touchdowns and 1 interception. It's really incredible what he's done. It's a credit to not only him, but it's a credit to you, and it's a credit to your system. It seems like no matter what happens, whatever player, whoever's playing that quarterback position for you, really, really steps up.
Well, he's been Jackson's a special kid. He's been program kid 4 years, and started off as a DB as a sophomore. And we had Ethan Cash at the time for the next 2 years, was our best receiver last year, like 950 yards. Plus he was an all-state DB. And he's always had a great football mind. But most importantly about Jackson is his leadership. And, we've had, if you coach long enough, you get leaders, your leaders of the program are different every year, but he's, for a long time, he's had the ear of the locker room. He's the voice in the weight room. He is the spirit at practice and everything. His attitude, he's always got a smile. He's very coachable. He's very competitive. He's a winner, in every sense of the word. And I think this year when we named him quarterback, it was really the perfect situation with the shortened off season and everything else to, bring him on. And that was the one guy everybody was going to follow, win or lose. They're going to follow this kid. And he's really embraced the role, and we're really proud of his accomplishments and proud of his career here at Independence, and look forward to getting a couple more games with him. And but he's been a terrific, terrific player.
One of the things that I get to do that I really enjoy, and you guys aren't invited to this, number one, because I don't want to take up too much of your time, but it's really neat for me to see. I have these photo shoots, right, for our media guides and that kind of thing. And your two guys that were there that day really stood out to me as being those leaders and very vocal. Jackson for Independence, and then also Junior Colson there for Ravenwood. It was really neat being around those two young men, like it was the other young men too. But they stood out as being, really kind of fun-loving, maybe not taking themselves too seriously, giving some jabs to the other guys, but in a very friendly kind of way. It was really neat to see that. Coach Daniels, I want to ask you about, and you may have a couple of Mr. Football candidates there, but I want to talk about Mr. Brenningstool. The thing that has stood out to me, and I've watched several of your games, is what he's done defensively. Obviously everybody knows about his play as a tight end for your team. And I'll say this about him offensively. I was fortunate enough when I was at Beach High School, I had the opportunity to watch Jalen Hurd play. Jalen was the most dominant high school athlete I've ever seen for any sport. And I used to say his sophomore year when he was a receiver, he made some of the best catches I had ever seen. Mr. Brenningstool has done that. In the games I've seen this year, he's come up with some balls. It's really been kind of unbelievable. So talk about that, and then talk about his play on defense, which may be just as important for your team.
Yeah, Jake is, what's cool about him is to watch him grow, and mature, not only physically, but emotionally and as a leader, the last several years. And as his responsibility on the team grows, and, it's just been cool to watch. It's been a natural process. And for a kid that gets a lot of attention, recruiting and certain accolades, that's tough. Oh, I think we lose sight. We think about, oh, this kid's life is great. He's got 40 offers and all the attention in the world. That's a lot of stress. That's a lot of pressure, on 16, 17-year-old kids. And I think we lose sight of that a lot. So he's handled that tremendously well. He's an emotional player. He leads by example. He's dominated on offense, and he should. He's a big body. He's got great hands, fluid route runner. We can say, all those characteristics all day. But this year he's gotten a chance to make some of those tough contested plays when it matters, and he's come down with it pretty much every time. So that's been awesome to see him, step up in that role on offense. On defense, we're lining him up at defensive end, earlier in the year, a little bit at outside linebacker, but because of his frame, long and lean and athletic, very difficult for, a bigger body tackle to get hands on, especially in a pass rush situation. He's physical. It's kind of a natural position for him. We joke a little bit at practice about, him switching positions when he gets to Clemson, and how defense coordinator is going to, try to get in his ear a little bit. Obviously I think he could have all the success in the world on that side of the ball too, just because of how big he is. But it's been kind of an injection of, passionate play, of exciting play, and just another athletic guy on the defense side of the ball. And it's kind of helped our defense out when we made that move.
Gentlemen, we're short on time here. I usually ask for some keys offensively and defensively, but for the sake of time, I'm going to let you choose. We'll start with Coach Blade. Give me a key for tonight's game.
Don't turn it over. Stay on the field. Churn out. It's going to be physical. Got to make them on defense. Got to make them earn it. On offense, we got to earn it. So, other than that, it always starts with turnovers. Win the turnover battle.
Coach Daniels?
Totally agree on the turnovers, but we got to keep Jackson Campbell in the pocket.
Easier said than done, right?
Way easier said than done.
We're really looking forward to it. Congratulations, gentlemen, on a fantastic season so far. Looking forward to not only tonight's game, but to see what happens in the playoffs. Appreciate you guys being here.
Thanks, Darrin.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Coaches Preview Show. We'll see you next time.